Well, so far what we've said publicly is that we are concerned that he has decided to retaliate against the company for a position the company took on pending legislation in that state. And frankly, the company was within its right, even though I'm not sure it was handled very well, it was within its right to speak up on an issue, constitutionally protected right of free speech. And to retaliate against the company in a way that would be harmful to the business was not something that we could sit back and tolerate. It's concerning to me that anyone would encourage a level of intolerance or even hate that, frankly, could even become dangerous action that could be turned into some dangerous act of some sort.
I'm already done with this.
So it's
I'm already done with
concerning
this.
to me,
This is
but
garbage. I completely reject this. And I also don't believe in the whole thing that he's trying to find a way to get, extricate Disney from this mess. That's Bob Iger, who was commenting on the back and forth between, and it's not just DeSantis. They're trying to boil it down to be just DeSantis. I mean, you're clearly omitting the entire Florida legislature and a number of Democrats. And the most important factor of all in this, the parents. Welcome back to the program. Top of the second hour with you, Dana Loesch here. So he's really trying to rewrite the history on this. And he, like a lot of people on the left and some really stupid Republicans, there's a handful of them that are just absolutely moronic. They have no capacity for understanding any kind of economic issues. Their illiteracy on any kind of issues related to, local economics, finance, or civics is just mind-numbingly depressing. But I digress. The whole issue with this is it's not a free speech issue. This has nothing to do with free speech. No one said that Disney couldn't speak out. That's not what Disney did, though. Disney didn't just speak out. Disney actually organized. Disney smeared parents. Disney was inferring through their employees that people who didn't want men to shake their penises in front of kids, that somehow, the parents were Nazis, etc. Disney was upset, and their employees were upset that if your children in elementary school weren't allowed to read books which had illustrations showing minors engaging in blowjobs, then, I guess you're a Nazi. I'm not exaggerating. That is the exact thing that was happening. That's the exact illustrations in the book. That is what drag shows are performances on sex. If you're an adult and you want to go to a drag show, that's your decision. But when you're talking about minors, are we going to start allowing minors in strip clubs? What's the difference? It's based upon sex. Don't be a moron. And don't assume that we all are as stupid as you are. Now, Bob Iger trying to go along with, people like Mike Pence and Nikki Haley. Who else? Rory Cooper. Some of these others. And they try to act like, this is a fight against a Mickey Mouse. It's a fight against Disney. No. It's a fight against a corporation that leveraged its anti-capitalist accommodation, special treatment that it received for decades, weaponized it to try to deny parents authority to determine what is or is not age appropriate for their children in school. That was the entire point of the Parental Rights in Education Act, which half of the people opining about it on television and radio didn't even read. And that's unfortunate because that's where you get the whole, don't say gay. No, that wasn't even in there. It was about parents being able to determine what is age appropriate for their children. So let me ask you this. If you think that it's inappropriate to have a parent to determine what is or is not age appropriate for your child, do you think that parents who want to be able to make that determination that they're Nazis or that they're homophobes or bigots or something? Because this is what this had to do with. That is what the entire bill was about. I've read the damn thing. Because unlike other people on television and radio, I don't want to pretend to know something about the issue. I want to actually know what I'm talking about. And Bob Iger is trying to play on what he assumes is everyone's ignorance. Oh, well, it's a free speech issue. Disney had every right to speak out. No one's talking about Disney's right to speak out, Princess. No one's talking about this. No one's saying a single word about that. Your company received accommodations and treatment that no other company in Florida received. That's a fact. That's not up for debate. For decades, they were allowed to do this. No oversight. And now they want to complain because they weaponized it. They made fat bank off it. Then they weaponized it to go after parents. Parents pushed lawmakers to act. Lawmakers acted. And now they're bitching and moaning. Oh, it's DeSantis. The only reason they're saying it's DeSantis is because he's announced that he's running for president. If he wasn't, they would just be going after general Republicans. And they would still be ignoring the number of Democrats and then the Republican and Democrat parents that actually spurred this to action. It's so pathetic. It's a free speech issue. Disney had every right. No one said Disney didn't have a right, Bobby. I can't stand this gaslighting. I mean, this idea, he's like, the notion that Disney is sexualizing our children is preposterous and inaccurate. Really? Have you seen the receipts there, Bob? We filed a lawsuit to protect our First Amendment rights, and your First Amendment rights weren't in question. You getting special treatment, crony treatment from the government isn't a First Amendment right, you schmuck. It's not. I'm so tired of this. We're not sexualizing. We're not sexualizing anything. Really? The bill, Florida Parental Rights and Education, which is now law, specifically stated that classroom instruction, I'm reading verbatim now, and by the way, you can get the bill at floridasenate.gov, flsenate.gov. Classroom instruction by school personnel or third parties on sexual orientation or gender identity may not occur in kindergarten through grade 3 or in a manner that is not age appropriate or developmentally appropriate for students and according to state standards. That's what it said. Where does it say you can't say gay in there? Bueller? Bueller? Where does it say anything's banned in there? Bueller? Bueller? Where does it call into question Disney's First Amendment right? Bob? Bob? It doesn't. The thing is that under Bob Chapek, they tried to stay. Initially, they weren't going to get in it, but then the employees began complaining. Why is the company not speaking up about kids that aren't ours? Why? And then finally, Chapek bent the knee and said, well, you know, the struggle's much bigger than blah, blah, blah. Oh, shut up. He's like, we're telling stories and raising voices, et cetera, et cetera. Oh, don't forget all of the videos of all of the Disney executives who talked about pushing LGBTQIA characters in their stories. That's a direct quote from the conference that was held by the president of Disney General Entertainment Content, Carrie Burke. We've played all these videos for you before on air. She had said, quote, she said that she had heard from colleagues and she felt a responsibility to speak. And she and other executives were talking about how they were looking at incredible groundbreaking of alphabet stories over the years. She said, quote, one of our execs stood up and said, you know, we only had a handful of queer leads in our content. And I went, what? That can't be true. She said, now we have many, many, many LGBTQIA characters in our stories, blah, blah, blah. Wait, you're telling me that you're not pushing anything of a sexual nature, Bob Iger, when your own executives are on camera during a Zoom conference, literally saying the opposite, not once, not twice, not 3 times, a handful of times. We've played the audio. I'm happy to do it again, but it'll take up the rest of our hour, and we have Simon Atiba coming up, and we'll have to boot him. I mean, I have all the audio here. Happy to share it. It came out in March of last year. And they want to act like, no, we're not sharing anything sexual. We're not doing anything like that. Quote, Carrie Burke, I've had the privilege of working with the Moon Girl team for the last 2 years. They've been really open to exploring queer stories. You're talking about stuff for little kids. Especially with trans characters. There's not one way to look at trans. And then they talk about canonical bisexual characters. Oh, for the love. Disney production coordinator Alan March said the team was, quote, committed to exploring queer stories and created a tracker to make sure that we're creating enough gender nonconforming characters and canonical trans characters, end quote. What was it, the quote that Bob Iger said again? Let me find it. What was it that he said? He said that it's not being, we're not pushing the notion that Disney is in any way sexualizing our children is frankly preposterous and inaccurate. What does he have to say about the people whose checks he signs on camera saying what I just quoted to you? I got the video. I sent some to Kane already. Again, although he already has it, Steve already has it, we already have it because we played it last year when it came out. Does he have a response to that? Who was it that was sitting down interviewing him? Yeah, who was that stooge? Did they not prep properly? What dumbass reporter was this that sits across from this guy as he says this stuff to you and you don't push back with the existing video? What kind of reporter is that? I mean, do you not even have enough respect for yourself and your profession to at least do the bare minimum and say, well, sir, your employees who are pretty high ranking, like we're talking vice presidents and heads of entire divisions, are on camera saying the exact opposite of what you just said. How do you respond? They didn't even have the self-awareness or self-respect to push back on that? Good grief. This is not DeSantis's feud. It's Disney's feud that Disney started because Disney leveraged its decades of anti-capitalist, anti-conservative special treatment against parents in a fight over parental control of age-appropriate material for their children in schools. The end.